Hello again, everyone, and welcome to our final installment of Trixter Month here on Rockeyez. With us today is Trixter's own shredder, the man behind the music, the one and only Steve Brown. Steve, thanks again for joining us here at Rockeyez.
Oh, great to be with you, man. Thanks again for all the support.
First of all, congratulations on an incredible release, New Audio Machine. Let's start by talking about the new album. Where did you get the title New Audio Machine from, and what does it mean?
PJ actually came up with the title. It was actually he was starting a new, I think one of his cover bands with our buddy Dennis Zimmer, and it was one of the names that they came up with, and he bounced it off me to see what I thought. And I was like, I don't think it's a great name for a band, but I do know it's a great title for an album. So I always kept it in the back pocket, and then when we sort of got done, came real close to finishing the CD, I said to PJ, I'm like, dude, I don't know if you remember this, but New Audio Machine. And I said, that's the title of the record. And he was like, perfect. So we got to thank PJ for that.
Cool, very cool.
And I think, I think it fits what Trixter is now with this new record. We are a new audio machine, so to speak. So it makes absolute sense.
Absolutely. Now, when songwriting, where do you get your ideas, and do you find the writing and arranging process smoother and easier now as opposed to when you were younger?
Without a doubt. I mean, like anything, the longer you do something naturally and hopefully, the better you get at it. So songwriting, producing, engineering, and arranging is something that, I never stopped doing. So throughout the years, I think, I've honed my craft, and I think it was really easy. A lot of these songs just wrote themselves, and that's a really cool thing.
Now, the opening track, Drag Me Down, you co-penned with Glenn Burtnick. How did that all come about, and what was it like working with him?
Well, Glenn's an old friend, fellow New Jersey rocker, and one of my heroes growing up. I was a huge fan of, his solo record back in the day, and my other buddy Jack Ponte actually, I think, produced that record with him or co-wrote a couple of the songs. But Glenn is, Glenn and I have been friends for a long time, and that song is actually from back in 1993. That's when we wrote that song, and that was going to be for the follow-up to Here that we never did, which, I guess you could say New Audio Machine is the follow-up to Here. So, but we wrote that song back in 1993 and recorded a really cool version of it with Glenn singing and, him playing some of the acoustic guitar in the beginning and some of the bass, which is we actually used those original tracks for the Drag Me Down Trixter version that's on New Audio Machine. So you actually get, for the Glenn Burtnick fans out there, he's actually on our record doing some singing, some of the background vocals we kept and some of the guitar and bass parts that he put down, we actually use them. So that's the beauty of, modern digital technology.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of collaborations, you also decided to include Walk with a Stranger on the release, which is a song written by Skid Row's Snake Sabo and Rachel Bolan. I actually remember you guys used to play that back in the day live. What made you decide to pull that one out of the archives?
Well, that was a natural one because, we wanted to make sure we did stuff. We always thought that was a great song. We did Walk with a Stranger. Snake and Rachel gave that song to us, back in early 1988 when they, when they got their deal. And I always said to them, I said, that's a great, great song. And, I always thought it wasn't really a great Skid Row song, but I thought it was a great, pop rock song. So I knew it would fit good for Trixter. And that was kind of the one, I think PJ and I said, man, let's put that on the record along with Physical Attraction, which is another old song that kind of, we were going to cut that as well as Walk with a Stranger for the first record. But, for some reason or other, it just didn't make the cut, and that's the way it goes. Doesn't mean it's not a great song. It just, it just didn't make the cut back then. But we always had it in the archives, and I think our new versions of both those songs are awesome. I'm really happy with them.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you read my review, you know that although I enjoy the entire release, there's just something so special about The Coolest Thing. Tell me a little bit more about that one.
Coolest Thing, yeah, it's one of my favorite songs. I think Pete Lauren delivers a stellar vocal on it, and It's a great song. I've always loved it. It was actually a song that I wrote probably about 5 or 6 years ago with another New Jersey guy, Bobby August, who's the bass player in Lifespeed. That was written during my Stereo Fallout days, and it's kind of a leftover from that. And it was just a natural thing. I basically just sent Pete a version, a mix without my vocal. He did a rough version of it, and I knew immediately that it was a perfect Trixter song. And we also got some help from our good friend Pete Evick from the Bret Michaels Band, who actually mixed that track and added some cool, digital effects in the beginning, some guitar stuff, and really came out great.
How did you get involved with Frontiers, and how has the label been treating you so far?
Serafino at Frontiers has been a good friend of mine for the better part of 10, 11 years. He actually was very interested years ago in releasing the 40-Foot Ringo Funny Thing album, and it just never came to be. But back in 2010, late 2010, when I started getting the songs together for New Audio Machine, he was the first person that I reached out to and sent some demos to, and I sent him Drag Me Down. I actually sent him the version of Drag Me Down with Glenn singing it, and I said, this is the first song, one of the first songs we're going to cut, and he was like, boom, let's do it. He was right on board right from the beginning, and Frontiers, they've been doing a phenomenal job for us. I can't thank them enough for all the work they've been doing, and just really great. And it's you got to be in the company of bands of your genre. And personally, I think Frontiers does a better job than any other label. They are the premier label for melodic hard rock bands. They did a great job with the live Def Leppard record last year, the Journey, the last couple Journey records, Whitesnake, Mr. Big. So it's pretty cool company to be in.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know the album hasn't been officially released yet, but what's the reaction been like so far from those who have heard it?
It's been overwhelming, really, really great. For us, as a band, I think we all, and probably, I know that you've spoken to all the other guys, we couldn't be prouder of the way the record came out, especially the fact that we pretty much did it ourselves. And, it's not easy when you haven't made a record in that long and, to come back. A lot of bands try to make records, and, I don't think a lot of the bands of the genre have made records that are that good, or shall I say, as good as their previous efforts or the works that made them popular. I think New Audio Machine for Trixter is as good as the debut album, as good as Here. And like some of my friends have said, Chris Jericho, his one big, quote about the album was, he said to me, he said, man, it sounds like you guys haven't missed a beat, like, meaning we haven't stopped. And that's really cool, and I couldn't be happier for us. And the response around the world, the fans that have only heard bits and pieces and, only Tattoos and Misery, everybody's loving it.
Now, speaking of Tattoos and Misery, I understand you shot the video for that quite recently. I haven't seen it yet anywhere. When is that going to be out?
It's out right now. It's on GuitarWorld.com exclusively for the next couple days. And it was a video, very much like Van Halen's Jump. We shot it ourselves and kind of had some fun with it, and it's just really cool. It came out really great. Our buddy Sean Card directed and edited the video. Sean has done videos for Lit and for Eve 6, and it just really came out great. And I think it's a cool performance clip and has some has a lot of tattoos in it, and I think it fits the song perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Now, after talking with your bandmates, they all pretty much agree that you were the one mostly responsible for the whole reunion. What made you decide that now was the right time for the band to get back together again?
It just felt like it was time. When we kind of put the band on hiatus back in 1995, 96, it was never a question of, if we would get back together. It was always a question of when. And, it all spurred from Pete, Lauren, and I being out at the NAMM show in January of 2007. And we were out there just hanging out as friends. I go out there every year to play, and do product demos for some of the companies that I work for and endorsed by. And we were just hanging out, having a good time, partying, walking around the show, and a lot of people were coming up to us, going, "Oh, it's great you guys are back together. And, it's great you guys are starting the band back up." We're kind of looking at each other laughing, going, "Oh, we're really not back together." And I think Pete felt the same way, and I think he was probably waiting to see what I would do, but. Yeah, that was the thing that spurred it on. And I was like, you know what, man, it's time to do it now. And I reached out to John Domagal, who's our agent at Arm Entertainment, who books, Warrant and, a bunch of the other bands and stuff. I called him, and I said, what do you think? And he was like, man, I think you guys will do great. And the rest is history, as they say.
Now, I know both you and PJ continued on pretty seriously in the music industry throughout the years, and even Pete to some extent. Who was the most difficult to kind of pull out of retirement, so to speak?
Nobody. It was all, as soon as I made the calls to everybody, it was game on. Of course, there were some reservations with people because after not playing together for the better part of 13 years, there are a lot of variables that come into play, and first off, we had to see how we were going to get along personally. And of course, like I knew there wouldn't be any issues. There were a couple of things. We had some fences that needed to be mended. Gus and I hadn't spoken in a long time, and in the matter of 5 minutes that him and I got together, everything that we disagreed upon or differences were all put aside. And we were just like, man, let's just go have some fun. And it's been awesome. I mean, you got to understand, and I say this all the time, Trixter's much different than a normal rock band, being the fact that, the band has been together, not consecutively, but we've been friends for the better part of 30 years. We're like family. We're brothers, so this is much different than just your normal rock and roll band. Pete and Gus and myself, grew up together since I've known those guys since I was 10 years old. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different. So for us, it came together very naturally, and from the first time we got on stage, 2008 at Rocklahoma, within the first 5 minutes, I knew we were back, and we were playing better than ever. I think we looked better than ever, and it was just really, it's been a natural progression, and making a record was the next logical step.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you just mentioned, Rocklahoma 2008 was your first show together in over 13 years. And I understand you did it virtually with no rehearsal time together whatsoever in preparation for it, and still put on a hell of a show.
Yeah.
What was like that for you, stepping out on stage together, especially in front of an audience of that magnitude for the first time after so many years?
I just like to say that, not to sound cliche, but it was meant to be. It was like the time was right. We were ready. Everybody was prepared. We all did our homework. And, we have such chemistry together that when the four of us are on stage, we never had to rehearse all the moves and all the choreographed things that, like me and Pete singing on the mic together that we used to do back in, 1991, and me and PJ switching the sides of the stage, and Gus's crazy antics. It's all natural, It's a strange thing, but it's the truth. When we get on stage, no matter what, it just we turn into Trixter, kind of like superheroes.
Now, was there any part of that chemistry that was a little harder to get back in the groove with?
Not for me. I mean, for me, it's a very natural thing. I mean, I pretty much, I think you know this from seeing me in all my other bands. I never really kind of changed the way I perform. Whether it was, Soaked or 40-Foot Ringo or Stereo Fallout, I always still just rocked and, did my jumps. And, though I wasn't maybe playing the shred guitar that I do, it was always that type of thing. So I had no problem getting it back. And I don't think anybody else did, because if you see the videos and the DVDs or the stuff that's on YouTube of us, it looks very, very natural, because it is.
Now, I understand you have a few shows lined up already, including your CD release party right here in Jersey at the Bergen Performing Arts Center in Englewood on May 10th. What else have you got in the works as far as any kind of tour goes?
Well, we have a lot of stuff, on the table right now. Right now I think we have like 15 dates booked. Some of them are announced, some of them we can't announce until the promoters do the promotion for it. So, but we're starting out May 9th, actually up in Coventry, Rhode Island, at the Rock Junction. That's our first show, and then May 10th, Bergen Pack, and then May 12th, I believe it is, Saturday, May 12th, we're down in West Virginia at this place called Yellow Beards, and then it's just full on. We're doing a bunch of dates over the summer with Warrant and Firehouse, which is the 21st anniversary of the Blood, Sweat, and Beers Cherry Pie Tour, and so we're looking for a big year for Trixter out there playing live, and we're hoping that we're able to get over to Europe and get back to Japan and, just do as much as we possibly can.
Mm-hmm. Now, this has just become the recurring question with all you guys and has gotten a lot of feedback. And it's almost unfair to ask you at this point because I'm sure you've heard it and a little prepared, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What was your recollection of the infamous Turlock, California show?
What was my recollection? That's a good one. Well, hey, man, I think everybody out there knows Trixter loves to throw a good party, and that's what our shows are like, and I always liken our live show to the, vintage Van Halen shows of the early 80s, to where, though it's a big rock production, we're rocking on stage. We're having some cocktails. We're having a good time. So it was just, that was one of those nights where, it was rock and roll debauchery at its best, lots of girls, lots of booze, and lots of rock and roll, and Trixter in a sweaty rock and roll club, where I think, some of our best shows and some of the most fun times we ever had were, as opposed to, the big arenas. As much as we love doing that, when you're in a, when you're in a club in a kind of, out of the way place, some crazy things can happen, and they sure did on that night.
Now, I've talked with some of your bandmates about this one as well. You guys had a lot of success right out of the box, but because of the image you were portrayed as, you were kind of shunned from some music circles. Do you ever regret that or feel that the band wasn't always taken seriously?
Not at all, man. I get it. I mean, everybody knows, that, certain critics, they just weren't fans of that genre, whether it be, whether you were Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, or you were, Trixter or Doc and Rat, whatever it was. You can't please everybody all the time. And, though some of the things bothered me a little bit, none of it bothers me now because I, like I said, I understand the way the business works so much better. But we were having the time of our lives, and none of it really mattered, man. Like I always say, every dream we ever had came true 100 times over, so how can you complain?
Mm-hmm. Now, Trixter has always had a solid fan base, especially here in Jersey. Although you really don't have the support of radio or MTV nowadays, do you find that you're able to reach a new audience through the use of the internet?
Oh, without question. I mean, I think, every day I get emails from kids, especially like young guitar players, sending me emails going, hey, Steve, I just, discovered your band. I saw some of your stuff on YouTube. I love the way you play, and, I'm only 30. Can you tell me what kind of gear you use? That's cool, because you know what, man? Like when I was a kid, and when I was 13 years old, man, some new band came out, or, I discovered an old band that, that I learned, like Grand Funk Railroad was one of those bands, which, was a big influence on Van Halen, and I found out about them from reading, interviews with Eddie Van Halen, and he said, the Grand Funk Railroad. So what did I do? I went back and listened to Grand Funk Railroad, and, that's what kids do nowadays. They go back and find out these cool bands, from the genre, because there's a lot of them, that were even below our level that were great bands, but just never sold the amount of records that, let's say, a Def Leppard or a Motley Crue sold.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you weren't Steve Brown, guitar player, what would you be doing?
I really have no idea. I mean, I can't imagine my life. I've been doing this all my life. I've been playing guitar since I was 8 years old and playing professionally since I was 13. So that's a tough question. Let's think. What do I like doing? I don't know, man. Dave, I can't give you an honest answer on that. What would I do? Terry, my drummer in the Fallouts here. Maybe I should ask him. Terry, what would I be doing if I wasn't Steve Brown and Trixter, or Steve Brown, the guitar player? Yeah, I think I'd probably be a professional gymnast because I'm very limber.
Well, what would you like to accomplish most with New Audio Machine, and what's next for Trixter?
Well, I think we accomplished what the goal was from the beginning, and what I said to the guys was all I want to do is make a great Trixter record, and we did that. And I think we exceeded all of our expectations, and, I know for me, I worked my ass off to make this record and, write the best songs that I possibly could and, involve the guys, and everybody just stepped up their game. So I think we accomplished everything that we set out to do. Next, I hope that we're able to build our live business better, and instead of doing, 10 to 20 shows a year, that we're able to do 30 to 50 shows a year from this point on. I think we all the guys in the band know that, Trixter, we're going to be here year in, year out, rocking for the fans and rocking for ourselves. And I think, the future holds for us. I definitely know we are going to make more music. I think, we're going to work New Audio Machine as long as we possibly can. And I know that I'm excited. I already have songs, written for a new Trixter record. So, maybe not this year, maybe next year we'll have some new music out. But we're just loving the time right now, Dave. All I can tell you is I'm so happy, for my band, for myself, and for the fans. I can't wait for everybody to hear the whole record because, I'm so proud of it, and I think everybody's just really going to dig it.
Well, Steve, that's about it. Is there anything else that I left out that you like to say or say to your fans?
I just like to say thank you for all the years of always supporting us and giving your all, coming to the shows, buying the tickets, buying the T-shirts, and now go out and buy, everybody, all the fans, I'm instructing you, putting a spell on everybody. Everybody needs to go out and buy 10 copies of the CD. That's the magic number. So, because what we want to do is we want Trixter to debut in the top 40 on the Billboard charts and show everybody that rock and roll ain't dead.
Well, Steve, thank you again so much for taking the time to do this. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and congratulations on an incredible release. We wish you guys nothing but the best of luck.
Dave, thank you, and everybody at Rockeyez. We appreciate all the support. We love you. Thanks so much.
You got it, man. Thank you.